I have a confession.
Tell me everything.
I have gotten super obsessed with the HBO Max show Full Bloom.
I saw this on your stories. What is this?
Okay, it's a reality show, which I'm not a big reality show, but it's a reality show essentially about florists. So it's like the American Bake Off show or whatever, which is like people making, cake. It's about a bunch of people making flower arrangements.
Whoa.
That's it. And they do it on giant scales and small, tiny scales.
Wow.
So from the itty bitty to the giant, enormous. And I'm just obsessed with it. And I don't even like flowers.
I was going to say, are you learning? Are you going to start like giving out arrangements and stuff?
Hell no. But I'm absolutely obsessed. You 100% know who's getting like voted off the island from the minute they go in because they cut it the same every time. You're like, oh, that person's talking a lot. They're so getting off today.
No.
You know everything from the beginning. It makes no difference. You know who's going to win by the third episode. You're like, oh, yeah, no, they're going to win. They've got all the talent. Everybody else sucks compared to them. Makes no difference.
Oh, my gosh. That sounds so funny. I know you were posting about the guys tying aprons.
Oh, my God. And the whoever does the producing of this show, the side notes, the people must be the most boring people on earth because like they spend time on the TV watching people tie aprons. They're like, yeah, that's the important stuff. We're going to show dudes tying each other aprons.
This is the only B-roll we have.
It's like, and they're going to talk while they're doing it. Like, oh my God, look, are you okay? Can I tie it? Am I tying it too tight? This is the important conversations you're having while making flower arrangements.
Am I having a nervous breakdown or do I just really like this blooming show? I can't tell.
I'm obsessed with it. It's on the second season and I'm watching it and I love it. I have no idea what they're talking about. They're like, tell me a story. I don't like the story you just told me about your flower arrangement. I'm like, it's an effing flower arrangement. It doesn't have to have a story. There's a bunch of flowers in it.
Take you on a journey.
Yeah, whatever. It's a flower arrangement. Yeah, I'm obsessed with it. I can't stop watching it. I can't wait to get to the end and then wait for the next season to come out.
That's so great. I'm so happy you have that joy in your life right now.
I know. I'm so happy too. It's just so mindless and good. And I suddenly understand why people like watching people bake cakes, which I never understood, but now I can enjoy it.
It's just so peaceful.
Exactly. It's just very, very peaceful.
Although I had to stop watching it because I got too obsessed and then I had to watch the whole season in one sitting and, my whole life was put on hold. But I'm just doing that with my books now, so it's fine.
I mean, I definitely fell asleep watching it last night. And I woke up, I was like, I can't know what's happening.
Don't spoil it for yourself.
I can't know. Who's still left? I don't want to know.
Oh my God, that's so funny. What's it called again?
Full Bloom.
Full Bloom. Okay.
Full Bloom. It's fantastic. I love it so much. All right, let's get this party started. Hi, I'm Sybil Solon. I'm an esthetician and spa owner.
And hi, I'm Alex Ellis. I'm a body nerd and wellness expert, and we are business besties.
And bosses. Running your own business, it's hard.
But we're terrible employees, so we're figuring it out.
I've already figured it all out, but we promise to share everything we know about what it takes to make six figures and beyond.
And be brutally honest about what works and what totally sucks.
A bunch of it totally sucks. Yeah. So let's get started.
Yes, it does. Welcome back to Skinfessional. On today's show, we are talking about approaching time off and taking time off, especially for personal reasons, whether it's illness, life, your own mental health, or family obligations.
And the balance between staying quiet and letting your clients in on what's going on with you.
Mm-hmm. We have talked about this from a number of different angles, but you have a relationship with your clients. They see you on a regular basis, and you are not a robot. And so things happen, life happens, and I don't think that silence is always the best policy. And I know you have personal experience with this too.
Yeah. And I've told this story before where I've had cancer. And when, I dealt with that in a completely different way than the time that I had a friend who was dying. And the reason why was because when my friend was passing away, I stayed quiet. I said nothing about anything. And I nearly lost a bunch of clientele because of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your clients know what's happening. They 100% know what's going on in your business.
Mm-hmm.
So when you stay quiet and silent because you're like, oh, it's personal or it's private, your clients, they feel what's happening within you. If you think that they don't know what's going on, you are delusional.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you're not showing up as yourself, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and similarly, you know, my cousin died very abruptly, very young. And I was just devastated and then just continued to work because it was a
Yeah.
distraction. I also, at that time, work was more transactional in that I didn't have deep relationships with clients because it just wasn't the nature of teaching in a gym. I didn't have the membership or business that I do now. So it was easier to kind of get away
Yeah.
with that. But I can only imagine how difficult it would be when, again, you have these clients that you have this relationship with, and whether they can pick up on it or not, like they know something is going on. They're not sure what it is, that uneasiness, right? They can definitely identify that. And then if you're not acknowledging it, they're just like, oh, well, I don't feel comfortable anymore.
Right. And so for me, when my friend was passing away, I thought everything was going fine. I was like, I'm going to work. I'm leaving everything at the door and everything's going great. I am fine. Everything is fine.
Mm-hmm.
And my clients were kind of dropping off my book a little bit, and they didn't really they like kind of like canceling. They would reschedule and then cancel. And then what happened was one of my clients finally, she dropped me an email and she's like, hey, Sybil, I just want to let you know that I felt that the last couple of services that you have tried to kind of rush me out. I didn't feel you were connecting to me. I didn't think you were paying attention to things that I was saying. And I just want to let you know that it didn't seem to be like you were giving me your usual service and your all. And she's like, and so I just wanted to let you know because if I'm noticing, other people are noticing, and I kind of don't want to come in to see you again.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started sobbing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because I felt so terrible, but also just I knew as soon as she said that, I was like, you know what? All those things are probably true, because when she's talking to me about her irrelevant things, I'm sitting there thinking about the fact that my friend is dying.
Yeah.
You know?
I wonder too the difference between like when we're going through something that's happening to somebody else, right? And it feels like it's not my story to tell. And kind of like, I know for me at least, it feels easier to sort of like diminish your experience, like what you're feeling. Cause like, well, it's not me. It's not happening to me, even though you're a part of it and you have like experience and feelings around it. Versus like when you had cancer, right? That's yours. That's your story to tell. Like, did you feel like there was a difference between that too versus like how much
There was.
disclose?
There absolutely was, Alex. And I felt I was much more in control of the narrative for that.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was going through cancer, I was like, I can control this, and this is my narrative, and I can talk about this. Whereas there's a part of you that when it's somebody else's story, you can't talk about it as much. This isn't something I can talk about. I don't have permission to say. I can only talk about how I feel about something. I can't talk about the treatment she's going through or how her feelings are, what's happening with her family. It's not my story to tell.
Yeah. And I feel like for me at least, so over this last 7 months, my dad was diagnosed with cancer again and had a very invasive surgery of a laryngectomy. But it was happening to him. And so I didn't feel like I could talk about it, but I also was like totally struggling through the whole thing in many different ways. So yeah, and I like what you're saying also about like control, because I think as entrepreneurs, like we're always looking for control.
We are.
And these are so often situations in which we have no control. And so deciding to disclose or not to disclose, sometimes I wonder too, I'm thinking like for myself, like that feels like the only control we have is that I can choose not to tell somebody else.
Yeah. And having that kind of power, is a choice that you're making. But at the end of the day, as somebody who's gone through it, and Alex, now you've been through this a couple of different times. And I mean, I've watched you on our episodes kind of like balance between, do I talk about things? How much do I say about stuff that I'm going through that's so relevant to what we're discussing?
Mm-hmm.
How much can you talk about to a client? And the answer is, you talk about what you are comfortable talking about. But at the end of the day, your clients need to know something, and
Yeah.
they need to know enough so that they have it and kind of insight into what's going on in your mind and in your heart. And sometimes what they really just need to hear is, I'm going through something and it's hard, and I might not be here 100%, and I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I feel like that's all they want to know.
Yeah. And that's how I wound up handling it when I kind of rolled back when I had my friend passing away. I literally just sent an email to everybody. I'm like, one of my clients has made it clear that I might not be doing my best with you. I want to tell you what's going on with me. I apologize for if anybody's noticed this. I didn't realize. I thought I was doing everything I could, and I thought I was on point. I clearly wasn't. And I just want to say, I'm sorry. This is what's happening. I didn't feel comfortable talking to anybody, but I'm sorry. And I had this outpouring of people being like, oh my God, Sybil, I didn't know what was going on. Some people are like, I didn't notice anything. You're doing fine. Other people was like, I did notice, and I'm sorry. And I'm sorry if I was like abrupt with you. Because that's the other thing, when you're going through trauma and pain and sorrow, you're also like, your emotions aren't right. Like, you don't act correctly with people. You can be more abrupt. You
Highly
can
sensitive.
not right. And sensitive. You can
Reactive.
also just not pay attention to people, which apparently is what I was doing, where I would just be like, because I honestly probably just didn't actually care about what they were saying. I'm like, I felt everything people were saying was so insignificant. I was like, I really just don't care that your cream is not working right now. I mean, honestly, that's what I'd be like. So your cream isn't working. My friend is dying.
Right.
And once I like said that out loud to myself, which I don't think I really realized at the time. Once I said it out loud, I was like, oh, now it's out, and now I don't really feel that way anymore.
I think too, like, this disclosure, there's a sense of honesty to yourself as well. Because I know where I was when my cousin died versus where I've been in these last couple months. I'm far more attuned to like my emotional needs. And so that allowed me to experience this time. It wasn't easier, but I could acknowledge like, I'm having a really hard day. Like, I'm giving myself permission to like check out in some capacity, and I think that awareness is helpful and not something that we all have. And we've talked before too about like permission to say no. And that's these two episodes go together. But how do you kind of judge or decide like how much to tell and like how much detail, what should I actually disclose?
Well, I know for me, I try to only give as much information as I absolutely need to, because oversharing with people just makes them feel like they have to kind of make everything about you. And really, they're not your therapist, and they're here to get a service and feel good. And we've talked about this before, where when somebody comes in, they want to feel like they've done their due diligence and been like, I showed you that I care about you.
Right.
But also, this is still about me.
Right.
So that's where you find that line. So it's usually they'll check in like, how are you doing? Is everything okay? And so I give them enough to be, this is where I am. And I'm honest about it. I'm like, I'm in kind of a hard place right now, but seeing you today is really helping me. Because it's probably true. Or being here, it's hard today, but I appreciate you, coming in and, being gracious if I seem a little inattentive. I'm going to give you my all.
And then if they ask for more detail, do you reveal that?
If they ask for more detail, I'll be like, I'll give them a little bit. I usually have something to give them. And then I kind of leave it there. And it's usually something small. And if they continue to ask, I'm like, I'll try to divert them into something else. I'll be like, but enough about me. Let's talk about you. How are your kids? How's the dog? I know last time we were talking, I try to divert the questions to something else. I noticed that you do the same thing, Alex. We're
Yeah.
very good at these things. We're very good at these things.
Well, I what I like about that also, hearing it from you is you lay out like the expectation, right? And then for the person who doesn't want to feign interest, like there's nothing
Right.
wrong
They
with
actually
that.
want interest. Yeah.
Yeah, then they have the out as well to be like, oh, okay, cool. And then we move on. And the person who wants to know more can ask more. So even that in itself, just that phrase and just, yeah, I'm having a hard time, but I'm happy to be here with you, or however you want to phrase it. Like
Mm-hmm.
that puts a ball back in their court. Like they have the permission if they want to ask more. If they don't, you have said there's something going on. So like their expectations are different. I just feel like it kind of sets the stage for both parties.
Right. Absolutely. And that's important because you do have clients who are like your closer clients who they really do want to know. But at the same time, you want to make sure you're not putting a burden on them. You
Right.
absolutely want to make sure that they have a wonderful treatment. And I give myself a finite time to talk about me. And honest to goodness, it's the time of a facial cleanse. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
The first facial cleanse for me is the finite amount of time. I always have a cutoff time. I'm like, we no longer talk about me. I have given you the first facial cleanse, which is 3 to 5 minutes. And now we are done talking about Sybil. We are on to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Alex, do you have something like that when you're like working with people? You do a call, or if you're like, hanging out with people and doing those things?
Yeah, I'm thinking too of like, within the intro, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because checking in, like, I mean, for me too, I'm like, well, obviously I'm not in the same location that we usually talk, and I've been here for a couple of weeks, so I'm sure you're wondering why I'm here. Here's what's going on. Okay, let's, keep going. So yeah, it is fine. Which I'm wondering too, like when I taught class, I spent a lot more time talking about myself because I wasn't in conversation with individuals because, it's like a group of people. But even then, it would just be like stupid shit that doesn't matter. But I think that's important. Like we are
Right.
in helper fields and customer
Mm-hmm.
service. And, even if you're listening to this, you have been in the seat of the client with someone who won't stop talking about themselves. And it feels like an energetic burden. We've all been there and done that, So like, just
Energetic
don't do
burden.
that to other people. Even if you can't like, specifically say, you're just like, man, I leave this place feeling more exhausted than when I walked in the door. Red flag city.
Well, and that brings up a good point. The idea that, because you used to work in, a space where you did like yoga. And
Yeah.
so some of those people, they know you a lot about you.
Yes.
And they're regulars. And some people, they don't know you from Adam. They're just coming in, they're seeing you the first time. Or maybe they're regulars, but they don't know you. They're like, I just come in and do yoga with this chick. I don't know this chick. And for some of us, we have clients like that. We have the clients who really know us. If you work in a big spa, you have the people who are churn and you barely know them.
Right.
And then you have the people who are like your regulars. And so there is a difference between those two people. So the people who are kind of these people who barely know you, don't have much interaction with, you don't have to tell them anything.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need to know anything. They don't care. They're not going to notice really.
Mm-hmm.
It's the people who are going to notice who are your like, they're almost like family. You look at them and they're going to notice what's going on with you.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the people who we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's important. Okay. So we've talked too about like how much to disclose, how to navigate that conversation, but what about, you've reached a point where you have to take time off.
Yeah.
I imagine that how much you disclose is similar to what we've already talked about. Would you say?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think if somebody's going to be taking time off, I think there's a couple ways to do it. Because nowadays, like taking time off is like this big to do because like you have to take it off of social too sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you're like, and I see this sometimes where people put up a thing on social. They're like, I'm taking a break from social.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's say you're taking a break from social or you're taking a break from your business. And if you're taking a break from social, how would you take a break from social? Let's talk about that first, Alex. How would you go about doing that?
So I took a break from social by I stopped posting because guess what? Nobody cares if you show up or not. Hate to break it to you. You're not that special. You're not really that important. Like nobody freaking cares. And the people who do care might send you a message and be like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. But as someone who consumes a lot of social media, I don't realize that someone is gone until they post again and they say like, oh my God, it's been so long. And I'm like, oh, you left? I had no idea. It's like you're in a big, loud house party. You don't notice if someone steps out until they come back. So
somebody ghosted.
I navigated it, and it actually has been really, really freeing because I was a person who was like, you got to post 5 days a week, and I was creating content all the time, and it was like this obligation, and the fun had been kind of zapped out of it. And I just stopped posting, and nobody sent me any DMs. Not a single person, and it was fine. And then when I came back, I was able to reevaluate my relationship with social and how I wanted to show up. And now I get to post when I feel like it, and only then, and it feels so much better. So
right on.
I think if you want to take a break on social, just fucking take a break. Like, just go. It's fine. It's totally fine.
It's so funny because there's somebody who I follow on social, and I didn't see her for a couple days. So I actually DM'd her and was like, hey girl, I noticed I haven't seen you in a couple days. She goes, my mom passed away. And I was like, I'm so very sorry your mom passed away. You know, my condolences to you. I'm thinking about you, all the love. She goes, thanks for noticing I wasn't on. I was like, there you go. But guess what? Otherwise, no one else would say anything. She was just off social.
Yeah.
If you have to reschedule people. So let's say you have a huge book of people, and this happens, it happens, and you look at it and it's terrifying. It's terrifying to see schedules of people and know that you have to reschedule them, move them, or just not make money for a bunch of time. You have to do this sometimes. It's just how it is. You have to take personal time. It's better to not show up than to show up and be shitty.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Amen.
It's as simple as that. For me, I made the decision to call my waxing clients and say, because waxing clients for me do not take the same kind of energy. I called them and said, hey, I'm not in a very good place, but I can come in and wax you as long as you're okay with me, like, not being in a good place. And it's your call. And most of them were like, that's fine. And I was like, cool. Because if they go off cycle,
right.
It's a bad situation. And I straight up was like, if at any moment I have to call you and tell you I don't feel comfortable coming in, or I'm not well enough to come in, it's not going to happen. And I waxed clients when I was sick, like right after I was sick. I saw people after my cancer surgery, and I'd be like, I have to sit down. And they'd be like, it's cool. Can I get you water? This is how it was. My clients were taking care of me, and I was okay with it. But this was what was important. My facial clients, I made them wait. It was just how it was. I could not give them anything, and that was important to me. So I called them up, and I was like, I am not doing well. I don't think I can see you. I need a few days off, and I'm just going to reschedule you. I'm not rescheduling you now. I'm going to reschedule you when I feel up to it. And every single person was like, that's okay.
It's just being honest and transparent.
Yeah. That's all it was. And I'm going to be honest with everyone. I did not reschedule them until I was ready to reschedule them, because I was like, I am not even in a place to make these decisions. I'm at a fatigue level that I'm just messed up. And that's what comes up. Like, sometimes you're at a level where you're not in your right mind. And it's somebody else needs to say, you're not okay. And you just have to trust them to be like, you're not okay.
I realize I have a friend who just had, mastectomy and is starting chemo. And 6 days after her double mastectomy, she was doing a radio show, and she asked me to help her write copy. And I was like, okay. And I never said are you sure you want to do this? It's important, I think, too, as the people around, to just be like, are you sure? Do you really?
Right. And it's because sometimes you have to have somebody in your life who looks at you and says, hey, I just don't think you should be doing this right now. You can, but I'm thinking that you're going to look back at this time and think I was being not okay and I didn't know it. Right. And I was lucky enough to have my clients in my life to be like, I don't think you're in a good place and maybe you should be careful. So those are the kinds of things, and I like to really stress this, because we look back at ourselves with much clearer clarity of vision, right?
Yes.
And so what will happen is, when you're in it and you're sad and you're messed up or you're sick, you think you're fine. You will say, I'm fine. If somebody asks you if you're doing okay and you say, I'm fine, you're probably not fine.
No.
I want you to remember these words. If somebody asks you if you're doing okay and they look like you're probably not doing okay, and you decide that you're fine, I want you to rethink if you're fine, because you fucking probably aren't.
Yeah.
Just take a step back and be like, maybe I'm not. Ask somebody else. Be like, do you think I'm fine? How do I seem to you?
And also, I feel like for me, what I experienced, because you do what you need to do to get through the days, and you're doing all the things and whatever. And people, I just keep hearing, I just don't understand how you're doing it. And I'm just like, wait, there's another option. And I think
Right.
that's it. And like, I've been really focusing on giving myself grace to like sit around and read my smut books all day long. So I'm just like, there's a lot going on. Like, that's okay. You know, you can check out. This doesn't mean anything about your productivity. It doesn't mean anything about your worth. It doesn't mean anything about that. But what good does it do for myself, for my family, the people I'm taking care of, for my clients, if I'm just like running ragged on all fronts, you know? So
that's correct.
It's not selfish, period.
No.
That's it.
No. And it always catches back up to you. So this is what I've learned over the years. You're going to pay it now or you're going to pay it later.
Yeah.
The price is the price. So whether you take that time now or it catches up to you later, at some point you got to pay the piper on this. So you're like, I'm fatigued, I'm messed up, I'm not doing okay, I have a bunch of trauma. You're going to, at some point, it might be 5 years from now, at some point it catches up to you and the burden just gets heavier.
Mm-hmm.
So you might as well take care of it now.
Yep.
And take the time. Give yourself that time. We are living in a day and age where we're very lucky, especially as solopreneurs, where if we tell our clients this is how we're doing, they're our clients, they care about us. They're like, okay. And if they don't, then they're not a good client and you don't want them anyways. F that client. If they're like, but I really needed to see you, you're like, well, I've learned a valuable lesson about you. You can fuck off. You can fuck all the way off.
Goodbye.
That's
so
right.
Funny. Yeah, I think having less fucks to give, you get very, very, very particular with them.
Right. I mean, I found out from my clients when I had cancer, especially, my clients were so incredibly wonderful to me. They brought me gifts. They were so kind. They would be like, if you need me to come later, if you need me to move, if they fed me because they're like, you don't look good. I was just like, I mean, they were amazing. I was so appreciative. And I remember every single kindness that I had from them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I imagine many of those clients are still your clients today.
They're still my clients to this day, and I'm so very grateful for every single one of them. It is why I drive my ass down to LA to see them once a month.
Yeah, so we can have breakfast.
Because I love them. Because I love them.
And I think, that's the thing too, is like we have relationships with our clients, and to not be honest with them is just, I feel like there should be like a level of trust, and you don't have to give them the full graphic, gory detail or whatever. No. But I think just letting them in on you and your spirit and like how you're doing, I think it deepens that trust and that connection.
Absolutely. That is the way to put it. So now we're going to talk just about kind of like going back. So when you're kind of ready to go back and you're like, okay, I'm kind of getting myself back together. I'm ready to kind of re-enter or, let people know that I'm doing better. Let them know the wins too. When we often forget that we let them know that like I was doing shitty. We want to make sure we let them know when we're starting to do better. Whether it's like, hey, I've been seeing a therapist. I'm feeling so much better. My friend my friend passed away, but like, I'm ready. I'm like working on healing. Like, this is what happened. They need a full end of the story. Right? They've been on a journey with you. We forget they're on the journey, guys. They're on the journey with you. They want to take the journey to completion.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think too, is like our clients, like they care about us as well. It's not, I mean, I just think of like waxing clients too, like you've seen all of them, whether or not that you think you're friends, I'm sure they think you're friends because you've seen more of them than some of their friends have,
Yes, indeed.
Yes, just indeed. Bring them on the journey. Be a friend. But again, this isn't to say that disclosure is 100%, you know, like you don't have to say everything. Brene Brown talks about this of sharing from the like scab and not the wound. And you can kind of tell too when people are sharing when it's still raw and it's still open and it's too soon. And I think that's where like, you know, how much you disclose, being mindful about it, being sensitive, the way, you know, you already shared. And down the line, right? Maybe you talk about more when you can, but you don't have to be like, here's everything that's going on when you're right in the thick of it.
Right. Yeah. And you're really, there is a balance between making your clients uncomfortable and making your clients feel like they're learning, they're finding out about you, and they're there to support you. Because ideally, what you're trying to do is allow your clients to support you and not leave and be like, well, that was uncomfortable and a hot mess. Right?
Yeah.
So, right? They're like, oh, I'm so sorry I asked that question. Shit, she's fucked up. Which you probably are, but you need to keep that on the DL a little bit. You just need to show them like the top surface.
Yes. Right?
It's like a first date. Kind of fucked upness.
I mean, too, I'm just thinking of service providers where they disclosed way too much. And I always left being like, my gosh, everyone, there's like always so much drama that they get involved with. And then I was like, oh, it's them. They're the ones.
Yeah.
You don't want to be that person. You don't want to be that person.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
We want to hear too about your experiences with this. Maybe you're in the thick of something now and you're trying to figure out how to navigate this, how much to talk about, or if we've given you the language with which you can now navigate this. Just hit us up. Come and find us on the gram. The show is at Skinfessional. Sybil is at Skin Fitness Expert.
Yes.
I always get nervous every time. I'm like, oh my God, I forgot what it was.
I know. I switched. I'm freaking people out now.
I am at Hala for Mala. And as always, you can leave a voicemail in our box.
It's true. The number is 818-473-5277. Mm-hmm. So everyone, this has been a very powerful episode of Skinfessional. Mm-hmm. I hope that everyone takes it to heart and uses everything you've learned today. Mm-hmm. Until next week.
Keep your secrets to yourself.
Unless you're telling us.
Okay, bye.
Bye.